What is up? GoodMicWork commentaries back at you with episode 456. I am your host, Greg Morgan, coming at you very late and coming at you very quick this week. First thing I want to do is apologize for the delayed commentary this week. For those of you who've been paying attention to my last couple of episodes, I did let you guys know that I was going to be going through a small relocation, just a local move here in town. I was very unhappy with the condo that I rented about a year ago, and I convinced the property management company to transfer me to another property a few miles away. So even though it's just a local move, you still got to pack all your shit up. You still got to hire movers and go through the whole transition. And as per usual in my life, things did not go as smoothly as I had hoped. I thought I would be all unpacked and settled by mid to late week. That is not the case. I still have a ton of stuff to do, and I ran into some other issues as well. Have you ever moved into a new place and then you realize that some of the stuff you have doesn't fit or it doesn't really work well with the new space that you have? I ran into that with a couple of things, and I had to sell some furniture and rebuy some other stuff, and it's just a mess. So hopefully by the end of the weekend, I will be completely settled and back to normal, and you won't have any more commentary delays due to this move. I usually keep my personal life out of these commentaries. You guys are not clicking on my videos to listen to me talk about my life. You're here to listen to me talk about wrestling, but sometimes in life you got to go through things, and unfortunately this move caused me to have to delay this week's episode. And on top of that, I've got so much other stuff going on that I've got to get in and out of here pretty quick, and I have not been paying that much attention to the product this week aside from eyeballing SmackDown and Raw and kind of rewatching the shows a little bit as I was show prepping for this episode. But luckily, WWE helped me out because, correct me if I'm wrong, but was Raw and SmackDown kind of shit this week? I mean, for a go-home Raw was terrible. I feel like last week's show should have been the go-home Raw when you had the confrontation with Braun Strowman and Brock Lesnar, another great promo between Roman Reigns and John Cena. There was some good stuff on last week's Raw. This week's Raw was just a pile of shit, so luckily I'm not going to have to spend too much time on Raw. And SmackDown was no picnic either. So in this episode, you're going to hear me very briefly and very quickly run through the results of Raw and SmackDown, and then I will predict the No Mercy pay-per-view, and then I've got to get out of here. I will be up and home on Sunday to live tweet with all of you during No Mercy, so please, if you have not yet already, follow me on Twitter at GoodMicWork. I will be chatting with everybody all throughout the duration of the pay-per-view on Sunday, and then I will be up later that evening to give you my results and reaction video, and then next week's episode will be up at its normal time, late Wednesday or early Thursday. So let's go in reverse this week. Since I have to predict the No Mercy pay-per-view, why don't I talk about Raw right before that, and let's open with SmackDown this week. Now, SmackDown was not very good. Last week, of course, we had the big confrontation between Kevin Owens and Vince McMahon and the vicious headbutt and the bleeding and the whole deal, building up heat to the big Hell in the Cell match at Hell in the Cell between Shane McMahon and Kevin Owens. This week, we knew we were going to get some fallout from that, but aside from that, the show did not offer us very much. Now, we got a one-on-one match to open the show between Randy Orton and Aiden English, and Randy Orton defeated Aiden English. After the match, Rusev comes out to the ramp and cuts a promo, and winds up getting in the ring and challenges Randy Orton to an impromptu match. The bell rings, Aiden English jumps up on the apron to distract Randy Orton. Rusev catches him with a super kick and pins Randy Orton in about the same amount of time that Randy Orton pinned Rusev at SummerSlam. Now, unfortunately, the big promo by Rusev last week saying the only way he's going to get his dignity back is to break a legend or destroy a legend or whatever. If this was it, this didn't do anything to help Rusev, I don't think, get over. Yes, he beat Randy Orton in 10 seconds, but he also beat Randy Orton with outside interference after Randy Orton had already had a match. So it's not even that big a deal. So I'm glad that Rusev, didn't have to lose again to Randy Orton, didn't eat another RKO, and wasn't buried any further than he already was. But when you think about Rusev trying to change things up and trying to regain his dignity and the respect of the fans, beating Randy Orton in this way wasn't that big of a deal. I thought he was going to come out and do something a lot worse than what he did on SmackDown. So we'll have to see where this goes. I guess it's going to lead to another match between the two, which does not bode well for Rusev. But if WWE ever wants to get their act together with Rusev and actually start doing something meaningful with him on the SmackDown brand, then he doesn't need to lose to Randy Orton again. So I guess the next time they face each other, that'll be very telling. If Randy Orton beats Rusev again, we kind of know what the future holds for Rusev, and it's not good. However, if Rusev is able to have a long, hard-fought match with Randy Orton and beat him clean, seen, maybe, just maybe, Rusev can get back on the winning track. But from what we've seen out of Rusev from the WWE, it does not seem like they give two shits about the guy, which I think is a huge mistake because I think he is just, he's money, and put in the right situations, the right storylines, the right matches, the right angles, Rusev could be a huge star, but WWE just fucking refuses to do anything with him. So we'll have to see if that changes or not in the upcoming weeks. We got another promo by Jinder Mahal hyping up his match with Shinsuke Nakamura at Hell in a Cell for the WWE title. And this was more of the same from Jinder. He's just out there mocking the way Shinsuke looks, showing pictures of his goofy facial expressions on the Tron, even made a little bit of fun of the Japanese culture, kind of like he did the week before. Jinder Mahal is a guy that's been on top now for just a few months. He was a jobber before he won the WWE title. Fans are still struggling to warm up to the guy. I'm trying so hard to like Jinder Mahal. I mentioned last week that since he's been champion, he's been out in the open a little bit more, doing a lot of interviews, being guests on podcasts. And when you listen to the guy talk and you listen to his stories, he seems like a really good human being. And it's really hard to root against him because I'm happy for him that he's finally getting an opportunity. Anytime anybody like him gets a shot or gets an opportunity, you got to be happy for them because they've worked their whole lives to get to this point. But it doesn't change the fact that he was a jobber and he's really not that credible of a WWE champion. And look at where the WWE title is as far as its position on the card. It looks like they're building Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon to be the Hell in the Cell main event. So Shinsuke and Jinder is going to be a mid-card match. And as much as I would love to see Shinsuke Nakamura win the WWE title, this feud isn't that interesting. I hate to say it. It's just not. I would love to see Shinsuke Nakamura be in a WWE title feud with a guy like AJ Styles or somebody else that he has maybe a little bit of history with, or somebody that you cannot wait to watch him wrestle. When he faced John Cena and Randy Orton on Smackdown, those were kind of intriguing matches, but his title match with Jinder, you know, I don't know how good they can be. His matches in NXT with Samoa Joe and Bobby Roode and guys like that, those were so much better than anything I believe that he and Jinder will be able to deliver at Hell in the Cell. And I think the SmackDown title or the WWE title right now is really a mid-card belt on SmackDown. And they might have to start thinking about moving on from Jinder Mahal and making the WWE title feel important again. Because right now, the way this card is shaping up, it's all about Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon, and the WWE title kind of seems like an afterthought. So as much as I would love to see Nakamura win the title, I don't know if I want to see it happen in the middle of the card on Hell in the Cell. Maybe they can hold it off until Survivor Series if the fans continue to get behind Shinsuke, because he doesn't have the same aura, the same mystique that he did in NXT. Because when you get to the main roster, shit is just not the same for anybody as it was on NXT. We have seen that time and time again. And although Nakamura is a big success, he's had some big victories in the WWE, namely over John Cena and Randy Orton, winning clean over both of those guys. It seems like they want to push this guy into the main event scene, and I want to see him win the title. But if he wins the title in the fourth match at Hell in the Cell, I want Shinsuke Nakamura to have a little bit bigger of a moment than that. So right now, the way it looks is that that match will not be the main event. That could change. Maybe it will be. Maybe Shane and Kevin Owens go on second to last, and then they do Nakamura and Jinder in the main event, and Nakamura can win the belt. And all of that, that would be fabulous. If WWE can pull all of that together in time for Hell in the Cell, great. But right now, the way this feud is building up with Jinder, it's just not generating that much of interest from anybody, including myself. So as we get closer to Hell in the Cell here in the next week or two, and I come up and give my predictions, I'll analyze this a little bit deeper. But right now, from what I've seen on SmackDown between these two, it's just another match, in my opinion, and it doesn't feel that important. The WWE US title, however, does feel important because AJ Styles is holding it. We all love AJ Styles. He had an advertised match against Baron Corbin on SmackDown. They announced this last week, I believe. Baron Corbin has had his issues not only with AJ Styles, but also Ty Dillinger. And right after the introductions and before the bell even rings, Corbin attacks AJ from behind, starts kicking his ass, and then Ty Dillinger comes in and attacks Baron Corbin, injures his leg. AJ Styles then gets his hands on Baron Corbin and puts him in the calf crusher until he's tapping out, but the match was just thrown out. It was never started. The bell never rang, and the whole thing never even got underway. So that kind of sucked that they had advertised a U.S. title match on SmackDown and never even had it. So We had the New Day beating the Hype Bros in a match. We had the Usos on commentary for this. Nothing really newsworthy there, except for after the match, the Hype Bros backstage were teasing more of a breakup. And I think it was Mojo Rawley who said if things don't change, he's going to have to do something drastic. So the writing is kind of on the wall here. We just don't know which guy is going to turn heel. We had Dolph Ziggler out there again. This is getting old quick. I kind of liked it the first week, but now we're into the third or fourth week of this shit. And it's just kind of getting stupid because he's coming out there week after week, doing other people's entrances, having a huge identity crisis, can't figure out who he is. And every time he does an entrance, he then cuts a promo about how he doesn't need to do the entrance, and the fans don't appreciate him being the best wrestler in the company. All they want is the flashy music and the fun entrances and the lights and the outfits and the sparkles and all this shit. So he is really hammering this point home with the fans. And I'm wondering at what point does he do the wrong person's entrance, where that person then confronts him and it leads to a match? A lot of people have been speculating about Bobby Roode. Seems like Dolph Ziggler is the guy WWE uses to get NXT guys over when they first hit the main roster. We saw that with Nakamura not that long ago. So I guess maybe Dolph Ziggler comes out one week and does Bobby Roode's entrance, and then that prompts Bobby Roode to come out, leads to a singles match at Hell in the Cell, and Ziggler puts him over. That's the only thing I can think of that they are trying to do here, and it looks like this whole new angle involving Dolph Ziggler at the end of the day isn't going to lead to anywhere for Dolph, and he is still in the same boat as Rusev right now, it appears. But you never know. Maybe WWE will surprise us, and maybe they will do something with Dolph at some point and get him back on the map. I just wouldn't hold my breath if I were you. We also saw Charlotte winning a fatal four-way match, defeating Becky Lynch, Naomi, and Tamina to become the new #1 contender for the Smackdown Women's title. This was all set up earlier on in the night during a Charlotte promo. She was out there to, I guess, thank the WWE fans for all of their love and support during Ric Flair's time in the hospital and all of the recent health issues that he has had. He came very close to dying during all of that, and how crazy would that have been if Ric Flair would have not survived and passed away a few weeks ago, and then we get Bobby Heenan passing away just a couple of weeks later? That would have been two catastrophic deaths in an extremely short period of time in wrestling. I think that would have been a lot for fans to be able to handle. But Ric Flair survived, and hopefully he can make a full recovery and continue to style and profile. And Charlotte was out there basically to thank the WWE fans for everything. She was then interrupted by Natalya, who came out initially to make it look like she wanted to celebrate the rise of women or something like that in WWE, and Charlotte initially has a smile on her face, and then Natalya unveils this big portrait of herself holding up the title when she won it at SummerSlam, and then cuts a very conceited and cocky promo, which then prompts Becky Lynch and Naomi to get involved, and they're all talking. That winds up leading to the Fatal 4-Way match when Daniel Bryan comes out and announces that. Charlotte wound up picking up the victory, and she will face Natalya at Hell in the Cell for the title. Now, if you ask me, I kind of want to see Natalya hang on to the belt a little bit longer. I know Charlotte will eventually win the SmackDown title. That's a 1,000,000% guarantee. She will win it at some point, but maybe not yet. Maybe they can hold it off. Maybe Natalya finds a way to survive Hell in the Cell and live to fight another day. And I would really like it if they held off Natalya dropping the belt to Charlotte until Starrcade. That's right. WWE has announced that they are bringing back the Starrcade pay-per-view. Now, when I read about this, and I just looked it up here a minute ago, I'm pulling it back up here on the computer. This is a Saturday show on November 25th. It's going to be during Thanksgiving weekend, which is great because it's old school. Having Starrcade fall during that time of the year, and also the fact that it's in Greensboro. Perfect. That's where it needs to be. Greensboro Coliseum, that is an arena that I've been to more times than I can even count. That is a town that is rich in wrestling history, and there's no better place for Starrcade to make its return than Greensboro. However, the fact that this is a Saturday show makes me think that it might be a one-time deal. I would like nothing more for Starrcade to remain on the WWE pay-per-view schedule permanently. One of the biggest problems I have right now with the WWE pay-per-views is they are so all over the place. I mean, they have dumb names for starters. Great Balls of Fire and Payback and Battleground and Fastlane and all this dumb shit. What about the Great American Bash? What about Starrcade? What about Unforgiven? What about No Way Out? What about Bad Blood? What about pay-per-views like that? Instead, they choose to have these dumbass pay-per-view names, and then they don't even stay consistent. I was always a fan of the pay-per-view name Backlash, but last year they had it in September. This year they had it in May. It's just so damn confusing. I wish WWE, now that the brand extension is in full effect, I would love for each show to have designated pay-per-views per month, and that's the way it is every year, and don't change it up. Otherwise, it's a clusterfuck. It's too confusing. So yeah, it might just be a one-time deal, just maybe a special WWE Network presentation. WWE bringing back Starrcade, I think that would be great, and that would be the perfect place for Charlotte to win the SmackDown title, considering all of the history that her father has at that pay-per-view. I think that would be really cool. So if it was up to me, I would have Natalya hang on to the belt just a little bit longer. I think she's more than earned a semi-long run with the title, and then maybe have her drop it in late November to Charlotte at Starrcade. Other than that, the only thing I'm going to mention about SmackDown was the latest on Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon was there to cut a promo in the ring. Of course, he's pissed off over what Kevin Owens did to his father the week before, and he's vowing to extract revenge at Hell in the Cell against Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens also cut a promo as well. His was via satellite. At first, he apologizes to the fans and to the McMahon family for what he did, but then he puts it all on Shane. He said, "This is all your fault. You're the reason that I did this. You have nobody to blame but yourself. And I hope that no McMahon is watching Hell in the Cell when they see what I do to you. And I would like to apologize to the McMahon family in advance for what I'm about to do to Shane." So, not really anything too newsworthy coming out of either one of those promos. They're building up a lot of heat. It's very personal now, and you got family involved. And what Kevin Owens did to Vince, of course, is trying to add as much heat as they can to this Hell in the Cell. And right now, who are you going to pick to win in this thing? Part of me thinks that Shane McMahon has to win for a couple of reasons. Number one, because Kevin Owens has done some pretty shitty things leading up to this match. And number two, he's already had a big-time match at WrestleMania where he lost to AJ Styles. Is Shane McMahon just going to get in the ring and lose every time? I think he should. I mean, Shane McMahon is not a wrestler. If he's going to be on TV and he's going to be having matches and he's going to be taking up spots on the card, the least he can do is put over his opponents. But if he starts doing that all the time, doesn't it get a little bit predictable? At what point do you wonder, I wonder if Shane McMahon might actually win? He lost to The Undertaker. He lost to AJ Styles. I don't see the outcome being any different with Kevin Owens. I think Kevin Owens should beat Shane McMahon. And hopefully Kevin Owens can elevate himself as a top heel on SmackDown and in the company in general. And I would love to see Kevin Owens get another run with the title. Let's move on to Raw now. They did open up the show with a nice Bobby Heenan tribute, put the graphic up on the screen later on in the show. They did a video tribute to him. So WWE did acknowledge the passing of Bobby Heenan on Raw and SmackDown. The show opened up with a Kurt Angle promo. He's out there plugging No Mercy, talking about how excited he is to see the two big matches, Brock Lesnar and Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns and John Cena. He's then interrupted by The Miz and The Miztourage. And Miz is pissed off and insulting the hell out of Kurt Angle and talking about how it's bullshit that the Intercontinental title is not being defended on the second straight pay-per-view in a row, which is weird because The Miz is like a cowardly heel. And why is it that he would be mad that he doesn't have to defend the belt? Every time a GM announces that The Miz has to defend his title, he gets pissed. So what is it? He's mad when he has to defend the belt and he's mad when he doesn't have to defend the belt? So I don't know what The Miz is thinking on this. If he doesn't have to defend the belt, that means he stays champion. So what the hell is he pissed off about? But Kurt Angle is like, dude, hold up. If you would let me finish, I was about to announce to everybody how I'm going to determine who will face you for that title at No Mercy. And he originally made a fatal four-way match between Jason Jordan, Matt and Jeff Hardy, and Elias Sampson. And Jason Jordan then comes out there and he gets insulted as well by The Miz. The Miz is just burying Jordan and his father. And then Jason Jordan winds up requesting from Kurt Angle that he add Bo Dallas and Kurt Axel to the match and make it a six-pack challenge. That way The Miz has no excuses or whatever. So fast forward to the main event, because I do believe that was the main event, correct? I was only eyeballing Raw. That was the day that I moved, and I had it turned on, and I was just kind of watching it from a distance, and I had to go rewatch some parts on YouTube to get my notes ready for this episode. But yeah, I do think that was the main event. Jason Jordan, as expected, did win the six-pack challenge, and he will face The Miz at No Mercy for the Intercontinental title. This is a match that we all thought we were going to see at SummerSlam. We expected WWE to put the Intercontinental title on Jason Jordan, Rocky Maivia style, and they wound up not doing that, which pleased me, and now Jason Jordan is getting the match at No Mercy instead, and I'll give more of my thoughts on that when I predict it here in a few minutes, but right now, I don't know, I kind of want to see The Miz retain, but we'll talk more about that here in just a second. We had a one-on-one match between Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss. Nia Jax wound up winning that. Sasha Banks and Bayley were involved in this, and of course we have the big five-way match for the title at No Mercy. Nothing too major coming out of that match. Another segment that was kind of just whatever. Sheamus and Cesaro wound up defeating Ambrose and Rollins and the Club in a triple threat match. That was all set up earlier on in the night with a promo with Seth and Dean and Sheamus and Cesaro and Gallows and Anderson coming out and calling people nerds and a brawl, and that set up the big triple threat. And Cesaro got the victory there. We saw Bray Wyatt defeating Dustin Rhodes. Dustin approached Kurt Angle backstage and requested the match, I think, with Bray Wyatt and said that he's going to wrestle under his true identity, Dustin Rhodes. He came out there in the Goldust outfit, but he didn't have the face paint on. And Wyatt wound up making pretty short work of Dustin Rhodes. And speaking of Starrcade earlier on that I mentioned, I did read some story about how WWE would really like to have the Rhodes brothers team up and have a match at Starrcade. I don't think that's something that Cody would be into. He's killing it right now on the indie scene and having a great time. But if they could bring him in for something or they could re-sign him, I think it would be a really cool and nice tribute to Dusty Rhodes. But I don't really see that happening, but it sure would be cool if it did. But right now, Dustin, Goldust, there's not much going on with him right now on Raw. I mean, 1 week is a heel, now he's a babyface. I don't even know what they're doing with Goldust. And Bray Wyatt made pretty quick work of him. Finn Balor then cut a promo on Bray Wyatt on the Titantron, hyping their match for No Mercy. We then got a nice via satellite interview between Braun Strowman and Brock Lesnar. To me, the order was reversed here. I mentioned earlier how it felt like last week's show should have been the go-home show. What Braun Strowman did to Brock Lesnar last week, kicking his ass and power slamming him through the ring, that should have been the final segment on this week's Raw instead of happening in the middle of the card last week. So everything is kind of backwards here. And this week on the go-home show is when they decide to have the one-on-one via satellite interview. Braun Strowman says a few things. Paul Heyman cuts one of his normal promos and really puts over Braun Strowman. Says Brock Lesnar has never faced anybody that's bigger than him, that's stronger than him, and that he's never prepared for anybody like Braun Strowman at all, and that his client has his work cut out for him on Sunday. Brock Lesnar then closes the promo by saying, "Suplex City, bitch," and that was it. So even though I like this via satellite interview between the two, I think it should have happened the week before, is really my only issue there. And probably the best part of the show, speaking of Strowman, was when he came out there and killed Enzo. Enzo comes out later on to cut a promo. He's on the ramp, and then he is ambushed by Braun Strowman. The crowd starts going nuts, saying, "Thank you, Strowman." I even popped for it and marked out on Twitter, saying, like, "Jesus, Braun, if I didn't love you enough as it was already, now you're in there killing one of the most annoying guys on the roster. Thank you so much. I sure hope you win that Universal title on Sunday, because I am loving me some Braun Strowman right now." And he completely beat the hell out of Enzo, and then Neville came out right after that and picked his bones clean once Braun was done devouring him. So I was really happy to see Braun Strowman completely annihilate Enzo Amore. Neville also beat Grand Metalik in a one-on-one match, I believe. Aside from that, the only other major thing that took place on Raw was the promo by Roman Reigns. And I like this promo. I didn't see John Cena on Raw unless I missed him somehow. But it looked like it was just Roman Reigns this week was in there cutting a promo by himself on John Cena. And I like what they did here. They basically recalled footage from WrestleMania 28 back in 2012. Has it been that long? Has it been 5 years since that once-in-a-lifetime match between The Rock and John Cena? And they showed footage of John Cena cutting a promo on Rock on the go-home show to WrestleMania, where he talked about The Rock going off to make movies and how he was never there for the fans, and that he's only a part-timer, and he disappears for years at a time, and all that shit that John Cena was saying back then. And I like that Roman kind of turned that around on John, because now John is the one that's the part-timer. Cena is the guy that's going off and doing talk shows and doing miniseries and doing movies, and he leaves and takes long breaks, and he's gotten bit by the Hollywood acting bug. And he's out there. WWE wants to get him out there more. John Cena really seems like he wants to transition into acting when he's done with wrestling. And it's kind of ironic because that's the exact thing that John Cena criticized The Rock for all those years ago. And Roman Reigns says a lot of the same stuff he's been saying, called John Cena a fake-ass bitch again, which we've heard every single week out of Roman. But this promo still was not bad. And my favorite part was the final line that he delivered, because when they showed the footage of John Cena cutting the promo on The Rock, one of the last things he said, or the last thing that he said, was, "Hey, I'll see you on Sunday, movie star." And so Roman Reigns closed out his promo with the exact same line. He goes, "Hey, I'll see you on Sunday, movie star." I really like that. And I think these two guys have had a phenomenal build. The promos have been good. They've been shooting on each other a little bit, and this could have been a lot worse, if you ask me. So this is a pretty big-time match here at No Mercy in LA. We'll go ahead and jump into those predictions now, I guess. I apologize for really skimming through Raw and SmackDown there. Like I said, it's just been a crazy week, and I was able to watch both shows, but I found myself not really being excited to talk about any of that. So I'm really sorry for kind of blowing through all of that. But let's talk about No Mercy now. Now, I only have 7 matches written down. I don't see anything advertised for the kickoff. Not that I can see, unless they do Neville and Enzo on the kickoff, which I kind of hope that they do. But right now, I've only got 7 matches, so they will probably add something, maybe a Hardy Boys match or something like that on the kickoff show. I would not be surprised at all. But why don't we start with Finn Balor versus Bray Wyatt? I'm going to go with Finn Balor on this one because I think Bray Wyatt needs to turn babyface. I just think that this heel persona and this character has run its course. It gets old. They gave him a run with the WWE title earlier on in the year, but it didn't seem to do anything for him. I thought that would be a rebirth for Bray Wyatt, and it's really been nothing. He went over to the Raw brand and is pretty much in the same position on the card that he's always been in, just mid-card feuds against mid-level talent, semi-main event guys, shit like that. And Finn Balor beat him at SummerSlam as the Demon. Now I think Finn Balor needs to beat him as regular Finn Balor and close out this feud. Once this feud is over, maybe Bray Wyatt can transition into being a babyface. I think he would be a good one. He's a great wrestler, and he can cut great promos, and the fans seem to like him. So if they make him a babyface, I think the fans would support him, and I think it's something that Bray Wyatt desperately needs. He needs a change because he's just been spinning his wheels for the past couple of years, and aside from that cup of coffee he had with the WWE title earlier this year, he hasn't really done much. So I think a change is in order for Bray Wyatt, so I'm going to pick Finn Balor to win that match. The Fatal 5-Way for the women's title, I'm going to pick Nia Jax. I think we need a title change or two on the show. And Nia Jax, as I mentioned last week, I think would be the perfect person to be champion when Asuka gets to the main roster. She's the only one in there right now that seems big enough, credible enough to actually defeat or give Asuka a good run for her money. If you have Alexa Bliss champion when Asuka gets there, it's going to be a mismatch, and Asuka's going to beat her in a matter of minutes. It just wouldn't be a very credible or fair-looking fight, so I think you should have the title on Nia Jax when Asuka gets there. I know that they worked in NXT. I know they had a takeover match against each other, I'm pretty sure, and Asuka wound up winning that, but still, when you look at all the other females there, you got Emma, who loses all the time. You got Alexa Bliss, who weighs about 74 pounds. Sasha Banks, who cannot seem to hold on to that title for any longer than a couple of days. Nia Jax is the big bad ass-kicking heel, and she's the one that I think can give Asuka the biggest run for her money. So I think the title needs to be on Nia when Asuka gets there. The Miz versus Jason Jordan, I'm going to pick The Miz to retain. I've got no issue with Jason Jordan. I think he's a great wrestler. I think he can get over. I think he has a lot of potential, but maybe not quite yet. Maybe The Miz finds some way to retain, some way to survive. WWE has been alluding to the fact that Jason Jordan has this temper or whatever, so maybe if The Miz is able to squeak out a victory or cheat to win or has help from the Miztourage somehow, maybe Jason Jordan snaps and goes nuts and completely beats the hell out of The Miz after the match. Maybe forcing Kurt Angle to reluctantly have to punish his son, and maybe that can start building towards whatever issue and whatever storyline is going to happen between Kurt Angle and Jason Jordan. We've been speculating for a long time that Jordan could eventually go heel. Maybe he's not even Kurt Angle's son and this whole thing was a ruse. There's a lot of different directions that they could go in, and maybe this match will be the beginning of it. And if they want to put the Intercontinental title on Jason Jordan, I'm fine with that. I think he'd make a good champion because he's a great wrestler, but maybe just not quite yet. Have The Miz retain and have Jason Jordan either start teasing a heel turn or win the Intercontinental title a little bit further down the road. But right now, he's still in Rocky Maivia land in my mind, and if they put the belt on him, I see the fans reacting to Jason Jordan the same way that they reacted to Rocky back in 1996. So I think it's just a tiny bit too early, and The Miz, of course, is an extremely entertaining Intercontinental champion, and he's pretty over right now. The fans love him. Even John Cena's been putting him over recently in promos. He's about to have a baby. Let him hang on to the Intercontinental title a little bit longer. The longer guys hold on to belts, the better, in my opinion. Speaking of guys retaining the title, let's all hope that Neville does make quick work of Enzo. I have to pick Neville. How crazy would I be to pick Enzo in this match. I suppose it could happen. I mean, imagine that. Imagine if Enzo is able to score some crazy upset victory. And as much as I've been putting over Neville and as much as I've been shitting on Enzo, let me clarify something. If Enzo does something to win the title by cheating, or he just does something to screw over Neville and he wins the Cruiserweight title, I'm not necessarily going to freak out about that. The only way I'm really going to freak out is if Enzo beats him clean, and we know that's not going to happen. And I also wouldn't want to see Enzo be the guy to end this long run by Neville, but somebody already ended that run. Tozawa won the Cruiserweight title a month ago, so Neville's long run has already come to an end. It's not like Enzo would be the one to end it. And on top of that, Enzo isn't going to beat him clean. So if Enzo pulled a fast one or Enzo did something crazy to win the Cruiserweight title, I'm not saying that I would be pissed about that. I don't like Enzo. I don't really want him holding belts. But if they made an angle like that, a storyline like that, where he's able to steal the Cruiserweight title somehow, and then Neville can turn around and just beat the hell out of him on Raw or the next pay-per-view whenever he invokes his rematch clause, he can wind up winning the belt back, no harm done. But for No Mercy, I'm still going to predict Neville to retain. That's what I want to see happen, and I hope that he beats the hell out of Enzo and hits him with a red arrow in a matter of minutes and retains the title. But I'm not completely dismissing the idea that Enzo could possibly actually win this belt. They've been trying to spice up 205 Live, trying to breathe some new life into it. Maybe if they put the belt on Enzo for a very, 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 very short amount of time, it could serve its purpose, or at least, you know, make Enzo going to 205 Live make sense. If he goes into the ring, gets his ass kicked by Neville in a matter of minutes, then what do they do with Enzo? You know, what do they do with him from here? He's basically completely buried. He's been buried on the main roster. Now he's been buried on 205 Live. I'm not saying I would complain about that because, like I said, I don't really care for Enzo, but it just seems like it would defeat the purpose of putting him on 205 Live if he just gets killed the minute he gets there. So I suppose it's possible that Enzo could steal the belt, but I'm hoping that Neville retains. I think Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins should also retain, or will also retain. I'm wondering when they're going to do the heel turn, because if you noticed on Raw and recently in their promos, they've been really playing up and building up the fact that Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins are brothers and that they're close and that they're back together, and everybody's been talking about it, everybody's been mentioning it. So to me, that teases some sort of a heel turn at some point, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins will retain. They just won the belts a month ago. We've seen the tag team titles being hot potatoed a little bit over on Smackdown. I don't want to see the same thing happen on Raw. So because of that, I'm going to predict Dean and Seth to win, but I still think the Dean Ambrose heel turn is coming sometime in the future, just not quite yet. Now we're on to the big double main event, and I don't know still if there's any word which one of these two matches is going to main event the show. I think if Braun Strowman and Brock Lesnar main event the show, then we're going to get a new champion. If they don't main event the show, I believe Brock is going to either retain or keep the belt somehow. So that has a lot to do with my prediction here. I don't know what to predict because I don't know which order these matches are going to come. So let's assume that John Cena and Roman Reigns comes first. I'm going to stick with my original prediction in that match. I talked about it right away when these two guys first hooked up, that Roman Reigns would win this match and defeat John Cena. I don't think those plans have really changed regardless of where this match falls on the card. I don't think it matters if this match is second to last or last. I think the outcome will be the same. That's not the case with Braun Strowman and Brock Lesnar. But for John Cena and Roman Reigns, I think Roman Reigns needs to defeat John Cena here, and I think these two guys can come back and have a rematch. Some of you have been saying that John Cena's got to go off and do another TV show or do another movie or something, so maybe he'll be off of TV for a few weeks after No Mercy. I don't know. But right now, the way everything's shaking out, I think Roman Reigns needs to defeat John Cena. He needs to have that victory under his belt. He's supposedly supposed to be going into WrestleMania next year to win the Universal title against somebody, probably Brock Lesnar. And I think the crowd involvement in this match is going to be a lot of fun. I cannot wait till Sunday just to watch that LA crowd react to these two guys, who they're booing the loudest, who they're cheering the loudest, or whatever. All these let's go Cena or let's go Roman or Roman sucks or Cena sucks chants, they're going to be all over the place, and I think the match is going to be a lot of fun. And I think the match is going to be good because right now, as we've seen, the build has been fantastic. It's been 4 weeks of great build between these two. Now all they got to do is make sure that the match delivers. And I think that it will, because both guys have shown that they can deliver. John Cena, I feel, at this stage of his career can have a great match with anybody. He's proven that time and time again. And Roman Reigns is very good and extremely underrated in the ring as well. A lot of fans shit all over him, but overall in the ring, he puts on good matches. He puts on good performances, and so does John Cena. And I think these guys can steal the show. I truly think that. And at the end of the day, I think Roman Reigns wins. I think John Cena comes back in the future and beats Roman Reigns. Whatever happens here, I think each guy will get a victory over the other one. Would love to hear all of your opinions on this. How do you think the finish is going to go? Do you think it'll be a clean win? Do you think Roman Reigns will do something unfair, or maybe he will cheat, or one guy will show signs of a heel turn here? Because that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that whatever the finish is, it's not going to be a clean victory for either guy. Whatever happens, I think the loser will have an excuse, which would be good. Roman Reigns and John Cena, they could both stand to do something heelish. I think the fans would actually appreciate that from those guys. So maybe Roman Reigns hits John Cena with a chair or does some shit like that to get the victory, and then you've got a rematch scenario built right in to the finish of that match. So I think Roman Reigns gets the victory here. Not necessarily clean. I'm not saying he's going to win clean, but I do think he will beat John Cena at No Mercy, and they will meet again down the line. Now, as far as the Universal title goes, like I said, if this match is the main event, I think we're going to see a new champion. After everything we've seen from Braun Strowman, all of this build, all of these matches that he's had with Roman Reigns, getting the better of Roman Reigns, demolishing every single person that's gotten in his way, including Brock Lesnar. How in the world do you not put the title on Braun Strowman? A lot of people are saying that Brock Lesnar is going to be champion going into next year's WrestleMania to drop it to Roman Reigns. Fine. But there's still time in my mind to put over Braun Strowman before then. Brock could win it back, and I want to apologize too. I knew this was going to happen last week when I was just talking out of my ass. I was just freestyling some opinions here, throwing out some ideas off the top of my head, and one of the things that I suggested is that Braun Strowman wins the Universal title at No Mercy from Brock Lesnar, and then maybe at Survivor Series or a pay-per-view down the line, Brock wins it back, possibly by tapping out Braun Strowman. Holy shit, did people hate that idea. And I even was telling myself in my head when I was recording that last week, I'm like, shit, if TVTrax puts up a clip of me saying that, the fans are going to lose their shit. And they did, but everybody just needs to relax. It was just an idea. It's not something that I think is going to happen or something that I think should happen. I was just throwing out ideas, and I was thinking to myself, you know, maybe they could do some sort of a really bloody, brutal, grueling type of submission match where Brock Lesnar's got Strowman locked in something and Strowman has no choice to tap out, or they could do something similar to what they did with The Undertaker and Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam a couple of years ago when Undertaker low-blowed him and then put him in the Hell's Gate, and then Brock Lesnar passed out before giving The Undertaker the middle finger, or after giving the Undertaker the middle finger. Maybe they do something like that. So if the tap-out bothers you, maybe Braun Strowman passes out. That way he doesn't submit and he doesn't get pinned, but he still loses the title. Whatever they do here, I think there's time between now and WrestleMania to take the belt off of Brock and then put it back on him if you absolutely must have him Universal Champion going into WrestleMania. So with all of those factors and all of this buildup of Braun Strowman, I think the only option in this match is to make him the Universal Champion. I think it could be a disqualification of some kind, which why I reiterate that the match placement here is so important. If Roman Reigns and John Cena main event the show, then I think Brock Lesnar is going to hold on to the title. He might not win. He might just get disqualified, or maybe Braun Strowman gets disqualified. Or maybe it's a double count out. Maybe both guys are brawling into the crowd and they just completely disappear and the referee counts them both out and there's a big pull apart and the issue is not resolved and they wind up meeting again down the line. But if you ask me, the only outcome that makes any sense for this match, given what we've seen out of Braun Strowman for the past few months, is Braun Strowman defeating Brock Lesnar to win the Universal title. And then maybe it's Survivor Series or Royal Rumble, Brock Lesnar can win it back and go into WrestleMania to drop it to Roman Reigns or whatever the hell WWE wants to do. You know, that makes the most sense. If you beat Braun Strowman here, then what was the point of everything that they've been doing with him, the ambulance match and all the shit that they've been doing with him and Roman Reigns? in the past few months, what's the point of all of that if he goes into the ring and loses to Brock Lesnar the way Samoa Joe lost to him at Great Balls of Fire? I think Braun Strowman is more valuable than that. A lot of times when it comes to guys winning belts, I usually tell WWE to slow down, no need to rush anything, but this is a situation where you need to rush it. I think Braun Strowman needs to win right now. He's been on too big of a run, he's been on too big of a tear, and for him to fall short now at No Mercy or get beaten at No Mercy, I think would completely kill everything that WWE has done. So that'll do it for me tonight. I want to apologize again for the very short commentary this week and the very brief rundown of Raw and SmackDown and even the No Mercy card. I know this was kind of a half-assed commentary, but I've got so much going on. I just did not have time to give you guys an hour-long show this week. So let me know what you guys think about No Mercy, what all of your predictions are, and don't forget to join me this Sunday on Twitter. I'll be live tweeting throughout the show, and I'll come up later on that evening and discuss everything we saw on No Mercy. So in just 2 more days, you're going to get another commentary from me. And by the way, for those of you who have not heard my thoughts and comments on Bobby the Brain Heenan, I did do a video on that the day that he passed away on Monday. That video is up there in the top right-hand corner of the screen. Just click on the cards there, and you'll see that video if you want to hear my thoughts on the passing of the greatest wrestling manager of all time, Bobby the Brain Heenan. So you guys have a great weekend, and I will catch you Sunday night with No Mercy results. Until then, peace.